So first up today on the number 7 team analysis will be Hayden Injates. If you're new, this is for the NCPL or National Competitive Pokemon League. There's 5 attributes you'll see there: offense, defense, speed, hazards, and momentum. Each are rated out of 10, 10 being the best, 0 being the worst, with a total maximum score of being 50. And the worst being 0. So we'll get into those, but first off, let's name what Hayden drafted here. So he drafted a Necrozma, Staraptor, Alomamala, Drampa, Shiinotic, Keldeo, Rotom-Mow, Megastelix, and Uxie. So the first thing I want to mention about his team is it's very heavy offense. So Hayden's been playing in these for quite a long time, and he usually tends to lean on offense. But you can tell the offense is definitely what he's trying for here. I mean, you got Necrozma, who's a really good weakness policy sweeper, just really bulky, can run physical or special. Has Sword Dance, has Calm Mind, has Automatize. Did get Dragon Dance this season. I'm pretty sure it was like it got it this season. I don't think it had it before. Then Staraptor, who's just like a nuke for Brave Bird and Double Edge, but also has access to Intimidate, U-Turn. I don't know if it has Defog, but a really good counter for things like Mega Beedrill and stuff like that with the Intimidate and the ability to wall it. So then you got Keldeo, who's really high special attack, really high speed, really good because it can hit physical tanks and special tanks with Secret Sword or Hydro Pump. So really good Pokemon. Then you got Drampa, who's similar to Staraptor, just not as good, like a nuke. Really, you send it in, you're gonna Draco Meteor, you're gonna hit something that you would think would be super effective. So generally you want to try and fire off those Draco Meteors with Drampa. The ability Cloud9 is kind of a good little niche that it has, although I did find out that Cloud9 doesn't work the way that I expected it to work. I thought Cloud9 completely cancels weather out, and I also made a draft thinking that it does like that, and I'm wondering if Hayden did that as well. So Cloud9 only stops the weather effects, it doesn't actually stop the weather, so I think you still get things like Swift Swim and Chlorophyll and stuff like that. So last but not least, you can mention Rotom-Mow as an offensive threat as well with Leaf Storm and Thunderbolt or Volt Switch. It does have a decent special attack here in 309. Modest, I think that is. I know it's bordering or on 300. So Leaf Storm is still a really strong move at 140 base. So it's definitely not something you just want to send in unless it's resisted. So then you got his big backbones, which Hayden generally drafts Alomamala. He really likes to lean on that Pokemon. Really good Pokemon to lean on. Its Wish Passing is one of the top tiers. It's got such high HP, it generally will heal almost any Pokemon to full on his team. So it does fall victim to things like Toxic and stuff like that, but having a Regenerator Pokemon is really good for him to fall back on if he needs to. Pairing that with Shiinotic, Rotom-Mow, Megastelix, and Uxie, I think are decent calls for him. To stop the Toxic, he's got Megastelix, and to defog rocks away so his mama can stay alive a little bit more, he's got Rotom-Mow. And then Shiinotic, just a little bit of a niche pick. It does have Spore, it is a fairy type. I'm not 100% sure if it gets Moonblast, but I'm fairly certain it's going to have Draining Kiss or Dazzling Gleam, so it's never bad to have a fairy type, although I feel like it does kind of the same thing Rotom-Mow does, except worse. Obviously, the only thing that it does have over Rotom-Mow is Spore and fairy typing. Other than that, it's slow, it's ×4 to poison. He's only got 1 resist to poison or immunity. Immunity is what I was trying to say there. I feel like that maybe that. I think he's Shiinotic's tier 5. I think that pick could maybe be utilized for something better to help Hayden's momentum or help his Toxic Spike's weakness. or a different defogger, just something to pair with Alamamala or Rotomo a little bit better. His offense is completely fine the way it is. I think just pairing something more defensively or utility wise might be better. As Shiinotic's stats really aren't anything superior. I believe it has good special defense and decent special attack, but its HP is low. I'm gonna check up on that just to make sure I'm not talking out of my you know what. So Shiinotic Smoggin, let's see what you got. Yeah, so even then, its special defense really isn't that high. It's 100, special attack 90, defense 80. So I guess it's got a decent combination of both, but it doesn't get access to Eviolite or anything like that. I mean, he can run Rain Dish against Leo, but we've already seen him versus Leo, and I don't think that really was going to make a difference. So base 60 HP is really not that great. You know, that really makes it susceptible to one hits just from neutral stuff. So and then 30 base speed is pretty dang low. That's going to be outsped by some walls. You know, Seismitoad being one of them, but you know, Seismitoad is a fast wall and Shiinotic is grass type, so you generally wouldn't have that, but you understand what I'm saying. Let's look at its moveset. So it does get Dazzling Gleam, it does get Moonblast, so I mean that is a bonus, but the thing is it's really slow, and I feel like Hayden's team kind of needs a little bit more speed. Keldeo is really the only thing pulling the weight on the speed side there. Staraptor following behind it just a little bit. So I mean, it's got Sleep Powder, it's got Spore, it's got Strength Sap. Strength Sap's kind of a neat one that I would say is okay to have. It does have Thunder Wave and Toxic. Utility wise, I'd say it's pretty good. My problem is it's just ×4 to poison and it not having the greatest stats to really make that utility worth it. Maybe it is, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel there could be something that would help his team better in that Shiinotic spot. But anyways, last Pokemon I want to mention is defense. Mega Steelix is pretty self-explanatory. He hits really hard, he sets up Stealth Rocks, he's pretty hard to take down unless you have something with very high special attack and super effective move like a Water or Fire Blast or something like that. Is Fire Blast even super effective, or does the ground negate that? I'm pretty sure it's still super effective. Anyways, last one I want to mention is Uxie. Hayden just picked this up recently. It wasn't part of his original draft, but I do believe this really helps his team out in allowing Steelix to not have to run Stealth Rock or not have to rely so heavily on Steelix to set up rocks and, you know, generally suicide him. Uxie also helps momentum. Uxie does have a decent move pool, and its bulk is absolutely crazy. 75 base HP is just it's good enough. I wouldn't say it's a spectacular, but it's good. 130 base defense, 130 base special defense, and a 95 speed tier. This is a great Pokemon to lead off with. It's generally going to survive everything. Can outspeed some slower offensive threats, and generally will outspeed almost every single defensive Pokemon with a 95 base tier. That's very uncommon in defensive Pokemon to have that high of a speed tier. So you know, it gets access to Yawn, U-Turn, Memento, Stealth Rocks, like I said earlier. Its bulk allows it to live things like Knockoff. I don't know if it lives a Knockoff from Bisharp. I want to say it does if you're max defense, because I think that adds up to 394 defense. Has access to Calm Mind, Amnesia. It has a plethora of moves to cover: Fire Punch, Giga Drain. It does have Heal Bell as well. Oh, I didn't know it had Heal Bell. That really helps his team out. I feel like his team really suffered from things like status and poison being one. So does have screens as well. What else we got here? Like I said, its move pool's decent. Shadow Ball, Shockwave, Signal Beam, Thunderbolt. It does have Trick, Toxic, and Trick Room as well if Hayden needs to go about a match that way. Thunder Wave, so really great utility Pokemon to add for him. I feel like this Pokemon does everything Shiinotic does, except have that fairy typing. So I feel like he could really fill up that Shiinotic spot with something that's going to be more useful, because Uxie really fills that spot with all that utility it has, and the speed tier being really high, its bulk being better. I'd say its typing is a bit better in my opinion. Knockoff is quite common, but if it's not a stab from a really strong Pokemon, I'm almost 100% certain Uxie will live it. So, but let's break down his team individually into those attributes. Offensively, I rated his team a 9.5. His team is a walking nuke between Staraptor and Drampa, and then Keldeo still hitting really freaking hard, whether it's Scarf or Specs. Mega Steelix is a defensive Pokemon, but it hits like a ton of bricks as well. And then you got Necrozma, who, you're going to see sitting in the back, lurking, looking at your team, waiting for its chance to get a weakness policy or an opportunity to set up. So with that Prism Armor, it makes it really hard to take down. If I would recommend anything, I would make sure people are careful when versing Necrozma, that they don't want to fire off a super effective move without knowing if it's weakness policy or not. So be very careful. Hayden's offense is super strong. Having access to Reckless, Double Edge, and Brave Bird, leading that is going to be, you can scarf that because it's got enough attack power between its ability and those moves being over 100 base damage. So pair that with Keldeo to clean up if it needs to, or Wall Break. It's a really good Pokemon because it can hit, like I said, physically defensive or specially defensive. Having that Dragon type too in Drampa to fire off Draco Meteors if a team doesn't have a fairy to immune it. I feel like this is going to really help Hayden's team break people's teams down, and allow Staraptor, Keldeo, or Necrozma to get in and finish the team up. So not to mention Drampa has a plethora of moves to cover: Fire Blast, Thunderbolt. Let's take a quick look. I know it has those two. I'm almost certain it has more. Let's have a look here. Oh right, it's normal typing. It does get Hyper Voice. It does have Sap Sipper as well, which Hayden, could use with Keldeo, but I mean that's covered. That's covered with Rotom Mow and Shiinotic, and I guess that Sap Sipper is nice because you can cover Mama too, and then get Drampa in for free. I would like to see him run Sap Sipper a lot more then, to really deter people from using grass moves on his Mama. And with Drampa resisting electric anyway, I still feel like that's a free switch for him if they're deciding to use an electric move over a grass move. So let's keep going. He's got Energy Ball and Focus Blast as well. I didn't realize it, but he has Calm Mind and Roost. That is absolutely freaking terrifying. His bulk is pretty dang good, so it's nothing to sneeze at. So if the team he's versing doesn't have statuses, I feel like that Roost Calm Mindset is very terrifying, especially if they don't have a Dragon Resist. You can just keep firing off Draco Meteors or Hyper Voice if they don't got a Ghost type as well. Let's keep looking here. Does have Ice Beam. I wasn't sure about that. Weirdly enough, it does have Play Rough. Find that very strange. Its attack status is base 60 though, so you generally wouldn't want to be using that. It does have good coverage on the physical side as well though. Does have access to Defog. Hayden's team has a lot more hazard control than I expected, so. Also has Thunder Wave, Toxic. It does have Workup. It has Surf, so you could see a mixed set with Workup and Roost. That would be kind of scary if he needed to cover both. Has Shadow Ball, does have Roar. This Pokemon's got a lot of coverage, so very, very terrifying to try and prepare for Drampa. You really don't have very good switch-ins. The only thing that really is beating it is the speed tier, and I believe fighting types is very good against it because it's normal. Right, so yeah, you got the Dragon Fairy fighting ice weakness, so that fighting weakness that's added is really good for his team. might be good for Hayden to try and get a ghost type out of that Shiinotic and deter people from using fighting moves on Drampa and Steelix. But I mean, he's got Staraptor and Necrozma for that. So, and sorry, and Yuxi. So offensively, absolutely deserves a 9.5. I don't know very many things that are just gonna wall Staraptor off. Generally, the ways to beat those type of Pokemon is Rocky Helm and stuff like that. But then you got to worry about Necrozma. You got Keldeo. You got Steelix, who hits really hard. Rotom can be offensive as well, and then Drompa's just a walking nuke too. So if you don't have a Dragon Resist, this is a very terrifying offensive team for you to go against. So 9.5. Moving to defense now, I rated an 8. His defense actually has a lot more hazard control than I thought in Rotom Mo and Drampa, and I don't know if Keldeo gets or Staraptor gets defog, but having the defog in Rotom Mo and Drampa is kind of useful if he really needs to run Drampa like that. So defensively, he's really leaning on Alamamala with Regenerator and those Wish passes. Alamamala getting knockoff can really help cripple a team, or Toxic, or Scald. So really useful Pokemon for his team. Going to be leaned on heavily. Pairing that with Rotom Mo to block those electric and grass moves is really great. And then Volt Switch out and build that momentum for himself. So that paired with Yuxi, I think is really good because Yuxi has the ability to set up rocks. It has the ability to U-turn, has Toxic. So this frees up moves for Alamamala, as Alamamala does fall victim to the 4-slot move syndrome, which is very, very common in defensive Pokemon. So this allows Alamamala to, run knockoff or run Scald instead of having to run Toxic or something like that, right? So very useful for him. Last but not least, I'm not going to mention Shiinotic too much. It has Spore. It's a Fairy type, Fairy Grass. It does have Spore, Thunder Wave, Toxic, so it is useful. It has Strength Sap. I think it's very good, but I just feel like those 3 Pokemon that I just mentioned are going to be brought every time over Shiinotic, so unless it needs to fill a very specific role. So last is Mega Steelix. At a tier 3 pick, I feel like this for 3 points is a pretty amazing draft pick. Mega Steelix being a steel type to help him deal with fairies. Although fairies do get Mystical Fire this season, Mega Steelix is generally going to be surviving that if you place your EVs correctly. And then fire off a Heavy Slam and more than likely one-hit KO it because it hits so freaking hard. Mega Steelix also does have a decent move pool in Fire Fang and Crunch. Dragon Tail is very useful for it after you set up rocks, or if you've already set up rocks, which I believe would be a great strategy for him, is to use Yuxi to set up rocks and Mega Steelix as like a bulky, annoying Pokemon that's going to keep Dragon Tail, heavy slamming shit, and then at that one point in time, instead of switching in the Steelix, he switches in the Keldeo and cleans up a couple Pokemon. So defensively, pretty good. I wouldn't say it's more than an 8, but I wouldn't say it's less. This team heavily relies on Alamamala to keep his other defensive Pokemon alive, but he falls victim to status very easily. So with only Shiinotic, I think. Yuxi does have Heal Bell. So I feel like if he doesn't have Heal Bell, his team falls victim to status very easily. So defensively, like I said, no worse than an 8, but no better than an 8. So moving on to speed. Excuse me. Moving on to speed, I rated his speed a 6. Now I briefly mentioned this at the beginning of the analysis here. Keldeo's kind of really pulling the weight for his speed tier. And Keldeo's speed tier is great, but it's when you got things like Dragapult that also have Thunderbolt and Zeraora, which is an electric type, Electrode, things like that running around. Having only one Pokemon at that 350 mark is I wouldn't say it's bad, but it's problematic for your team. You know, for example, if the person with Zure Aura or Dragapult decide to Scarf their Dragapult, I mean, it's going to be really freaking hard to take down that Pokemon. Being able to outspeed the Keldeo if it's Scarfed and, you know, potentially one-hit KO it. So, pretty terrifying. Slowly behind it, you got Staraptor at 328, I believe. It's that mediocre speed tier. It's not super fast, but it's not really slow. I feel like his speed tier, you know, it's a 6, and it's a 6 because he's really only got Keldeo, Staraptor, and Staraptor Scarfed, or Rotom Scarfed. Outside of that, he's very, very slow. Relies a lot on his bulky offense in Drampa, Necrozma, and Mega Steelix. So, well, I feel like the point of his team is to break holes and run through with a Scarf Staraptor or sweep with a Necrozma or Scarf Keldeo. I feel like he needs to add something that has another speed tier of 350 or 330 to help him deal with faster teams, you know. So not much more to mention. I mean, Keldeo and Staraptor are really pulling this team's speed tier. Heavily relied on. If something is Scarfed that's faster than those two, I feel like that's going to be very, very problematic for Hayden. So, but like I said, not bad, just not great. So, hazards I rated a 7. Sorry, 1 second here. So I rated his hazards a 7. He does have Defog in Rotom and Defog in Drampa. I believe there's one other Pokemon that has a hazard removal move. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't even have it in my notes. But anyways, he has good hazard setup in Uxie. Uxie's almost guaranteed Stealth Rocks every single time. I mean, its bulk is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it is really top-notch bulk. 75 base HP, that is more than good enough. I believe that's around 350 health. And then 130 base defense and special defense, so it can be run in either way. It's going to be hitting that 250 mark with no EVs invested at all. Let's take a quick look. I'm pretty sure no EVs invested. It does hit that. Okay, yeah, so no EVs invested. It's at 296 in either defense or special defense. That is freaking bulky. So, you know, you run max defense or something like that, 394 max defense with 252 EVs. Your Spadef is still 296. That's a bulky freaking Pokemon. So he's almost guaranteed hazards with that Uxie. He also does have the hazards with Steelix, but I would like to see him use Uxie more for this, and Steelix as more of a phaser to send people off with Dragon Tail and keep heavy slamming people, because it's good neutral damage. If they don't have something to resist it, it's in most cases probably not going to one-hit KO, but it's really going to dent some people's teams for Keldeo and Staraptor and Necrozma to clean up, or even Rotom to get that Volt Switch and clean off a Pokemon. So hazards is a 7. He doesn't really have much outside of those two rocks. He doesn't have spikes or toxic spikes or anything like that. So his hazard removal is okay. His hazard setting is good enough for me to rate it a 7. Had he not had Defog on one other Pokemon, I probably would rate it a 6, just because relying on that Rotom for Defog can be very pressuring, especially considering Rotom does have things, common weaknesses like Ice Beam, which tends to be common on Pokemon. And in a draft, you know, if somebody can run, just click on Ice Beam to add that into their move pool, it can be very stressful for the person with Rotom because it pressures them to make different switches when they need to get those rocks off, and then they accumulate damage more and more and more, right? So moving on to the last attribute here, momentum is a 7. Now he's got U-turn in Staraptor, U-turn in Uxie, Volt Switch in Rotom-Mow, and then wish passing in Alamamala. But for his momentum, it's a little bit clunky. But with all that volt turning, I feel like that justifies a 7. The problem with the volt turning is, like, I feel like the volt turning, they have common weaknesses. So I mean, he's not going to volt switch Rotom-Mow into Staraptor, because in most cases they're going to share an Ice Beam weakness. I mean, like, you can, and if it's a defensive Staraptor, I feel like that might work. If somebody's using a Fire Punch or something like that, and then you can send in Staraptor, but then you risk him being burned. So a little bit clunky like that. I feel like he's going to be doing a lot of volt turning between Rotom-Mow, Mega Steelix, Uxie, and Alamamala. And hopefully in that momentum that he's gaining with those 4 Pokemon, he can chip down things enough. And I think that's where his momentum is a 7. With those Pokemon being able to chip down the opponent's team for things like Keldeo and Staraptor. Or even volt turning into Drampa. Since Drampa has those dragon resistances, I think that would be a really good strategy for Hayden, is getting that U-turn or volt switch into Drampa and firing off a Draco Meteor or a Hyper Voice. Since Hyper Voice is generally unresisted unless it's a ghost type, and then Dragon's only resisted by, I think, 2 things, Fairy and something else. I think. I don't know why, but I do want to say that Steel resists Dragon. Let's just check here. Am I just crazy? Yeah, no, I'm not crazy. Okay, Steel does resist Dragon. So if they don't have a Steel type or a Fairy type, I feel like you get that Volt turn or U-turn into that Drampa, and you start firing off Draco Meteors and Hyper Voices to start denting teams. If he can apply that type of strategy, I feel like it's going to be no problem at all for Staraptor to clean up, Keldeo to clean up, or Necrozma to sweep. Especially if they eliminate, a check for Necrozma. I feel like Necrozma just kind of does whatever it wants. I mean, with Automatize, Weakness Policy, or Calm Mind or Swords Dance, it's a pretty threatening Pokemon to come against. Overall, I rated Hayden's team a 37.5. A little bit above that good level, I would say, but does have some very problematic things with it. Its speed tier is mediocre. He does fall victim to status unless he's running Heal Bell and Uxie, which really breaks down his team, especially things like Necrozma, who want to sweep without having to deal with Toxic on him. And if Staraptor gets burned, he's almost useless. Keldeo gets T-waved, useless. And that's not to say he doesn't have things to cover those, like Rotom-Mow with T-wave, or Mega Steelix with Toxic, or Spore with Shiinotic, right? So he has ways to cover them, but I mean, it's very, very pressuring. As we've seen in one of his games, somebody set up Toxic Spikes, and it was very problematic for his team. Necrozma was not able to do what it needed to do. Keldeo got finished off by Toxic. So that is a very big problem for his team. Other than that, the only other thing that I could mention is he doesn't have very many Pokemon, so he could be easier to prepare for. But like I said earlier, he's got really big move pools in Drampa and Necrozma, who make it really hard to prepare for. So overall, a little bit better than good, but not like a 40 or something like that. He does have problems for his team that are covered, but not covered very well. So overall, 37.5 is not bad by any means. And like I said before, guys, my ratings are not be all end all. I'm not some Pokemon guru. I just wanted something fun and visual to represent your guys' teams, and to have a cool stat board for everybody. I hope you guys enjoy these, and let's move on to the next one. Thanks for coming. Paired up with Hayden's analysis today is going to be Reggie C, or Reggie Cobb, or Reginald Cobb, or Reginald C. If you are new or this is your first one, I want to say that this is for the NCPL or National Competitive Pokemon League, as you'll see at the top center there. My rating is based on 5 attributes. Each are rated out of 10, 10 being the best, 0 being the worst. Those 5 attributes are offense, defense, speed, hazards, and momentum, with a total score on the bottom there. So let's get into Reggie's team here. He drafted a Jirachi, Mega Aerodactyl, Florges, Gastrodon, Raichu, Como-O, Donphan, Obstagoon, Orbeetle, Shaman, Magmortar, Garbodor. So he's drafted a pretty big team. He's got a lot of Pokemon to play with. It does make him hard to prepare for. Some of those Pokemon are low tier, but that doesn't mean they can't hit hard. So let's look at his team for face value right now. He's got Mega Aerodactyl, whose speed tier is very, very high. Its attack is still good with Tough Claws. He's got Como-O with a booster. That fighting dragon type is surprisingly good with Clangor's Soul. He can really sweep teams and get that 6-0 differential. So I think that's a good Pokemon in draft, because it's pretty hard to deal with, especially if he gets +1 to every single stat. So is it Clanging Scales or Clangor's Soul? I can't remember. One's the move and one's the boost, I believe. So or it's both. I can't remember. I know that it has a boosting move that boosts all of its stats. Let's look at that really quick, so I'm not just blabbing away about nothing here. Clanging Scales, no. What is that move? Is it the Z move that boosts all the stats? And Clanging Scales is just a really high base special attack move? If you guys know, let me know in the comments below. I really thought there was a move that boosts all of his stats, unless that's the Z. Yeah, maybe it's Clangor's Soul Blaze with the Commonium Z. But let me know, guys, because now that worries me, because I don't even know. I was pretty certain that it wasn't a Z move, but I guess that would be pretty broken if it wasn't. So, but yeah, you got Como. That defensive typing is surprisingly good. His bulk is quite high. Having those dragon resistances is also really great. So he's got one of the higher base overall stats that I've seen, in 110 attack, 125 defense, 100 special attack, 105 SPDF, 85 speed, and 75 HP. So I mean, that's quite high. You can really build him suited to your matchup. That's pretty good. So he does have coverage in both physical and special. Fire Punch, Flamethrower is a perfect example. And then, you know, close combat. Yep, close combat and Focus Blast. Poison Jab. And, you know, his dragon moves, of course. He does have Stealth Rock, so that's really great as well. Being able to free up moves on Jirachi and Mega Aerodactyl and Donphan is really, really good. And vice versa, you know, if they run Stealth Rock, you can run Como a different way. So then you got big defensive Pokemon like Florges, Gastrodon, and Donphan and Orbeetle. I mean, geez Louise, those are some really tough Pokemon to break. Florges being one of the harder ones because it has such high bulk and special defense. It allows you to run max defense and usually survive an Iron Head or a Poison Jab. Get that wish off, send it off to a Pokemon. It does have Defog. It has Heal Bell as well. To have access to all of that and provide to whatever your matchup is, I think that's a phenomenal draft pick. So Gastrodon just being incredibly annoying. Yes, it's weak to grass, but it does have Storm Drain, Sticky Hold, Recover. It's very hard to break if you take down that Pokemon on the opponent's team. that does have grass knot or grass move or grass Pokemon. Very hard to break if you're not toxicking it, but then again, that's covered with Florges with the Heal Bell or Aromatherapy. And then we got, Jirachi, who can be run defensively as well. I believe it has Stealth Rocks too, but the ability to U-turn, Iron Head, Serene Grace people is very strong. Donphan, the set that's generally I've seen being run is max HP, max attack. It does have super high defense. It gets Ice Shard, it gets Stealth Rock, Earthquake Stab, Stone Edge, Seed Bomb. It's got quite good coverage. It's got good bulk. It's a really annoying Pokemon to be led with since its coverage is so good. Its attack is actually quite high. I think it's 370. Is it 372? Let's double check here. Yeah, 372 with 384 max HP. That's pretty annoying to deal with. It does have Rapid Spin as well and knockoff, so like I said, it's a very annoying lead. If you lead a dragon, well, now he's got Ice Shard. If you lead Psychic type or somebody who's weak to knockoff, like an Eviolite Pokemon, he's got knockoff. You got a water Pokemon, he's got Seed Bomb. I mean, generally you probably wouldn't stay in for that water Pokemon because it will one-hit KO. But he does have Sturdy, so it's like, is Reggie going to stay in and try and get that damage off and just rely on the Sturdy? And again, then he's got Earthquake too, so it's just it's a very annoying lead. It's a good lead. So far Florges, Gastrodon, Donphan, and Jirachi just like, and even Como defensively, like this is a really, really hard team to break so far. Preparing your movesets is going to be a really big deal when versing Reggie. Next up, you got, I'm going to mention Orbeetle last because I think he's got a lot to mention about him. Shaman, similar to what Florges is doing, except it's a grass type. It's good for him to have a grass type to threaten people with bulky waters, and Seed Flare. I think it's Seed Flare that lowers their defense. Shaman, let's see. Yeah, lowers their Spadef. 40% chance to lower their Spadef by 2. I mean, that's pretty annoying. Having the access to Rest and Natural Cure is pretty annoying as well. It does have good coverage in Earth Power, Psychic. It does have Healing Wish as well. You can run Substitute. You can run Leech Seed. You can run Air Slash. What else do we got here? Toxic. It does have Tailwind as well. A surprisingly good Pokemon. I rarely see it utilized in draft, but with all 100 base stats, I think it should be used more, especially with Rest and Natural Cure. I didn't even think about that, but that is a great combination. The ability to absorb status is really good as well, so that way there's not so much weight on Florges to be Heal Belling or Aromatherapy. So decent Pokemon for his defensive team here. So last is Orbeetle. Now Orbeetle was a new Pokemon that was introduced. Kind of your defensive Pokemon, and at the beginning of Gen 8, everybody was like, oh, Orbeetle, he's so good. He's that exactly what you want in a defensive Pokemon. He's got high base defenses, and he's got high speed and decent HP, and an access to a plethora of defensive moves that you want. So I'll break that down for you guys really quick here. So with an introduction to new moves like Body Press, Orbeetle gets Body Press and Iron Defense. So I mean, that's pretty annoying to deal with. The ability to be a booster and a defensive Pokemon at the same time is really, really scary. It does have Calm Mind too. Defensively speaking though, it has things like Hypnosis, U-turn. Sticky Webs is one of its top moves that's going to be really useful for Reggie if he wants things like Obstagoon to break teams down, or Magmortar, or to get that guaranteed sweep from Mega Aerodactyl. So, and one of the biggest things to note about this Pokemon is it also has frickin' Recover. So you think about that. It's got Recover, Sticky Webs, U-Turn, and if you want Iron Defense or Hypnosis, or a Bug move, a Psychic move, it can do exactly what it needs. And then with base stats of 60 HP, 110 defense, 120 SPDF, and then 90 speed. So it's, similar to what I was saying about Uxie. It's generally going to get what it wants if it's led. It does have a plethora of weaknesses, but its bulk allows it to deal with those things. And if Reggie's prepared for it, you Iron Defense up. It's probably faster because that 90 base speed is usually faster than most leads. Get that Iron Defense, then you get that Sticky Web, then you Recover, then you Body Press. It's just it's a good Pokemon, and for the tier that it was in, I was quite surprised. So I expect to see this brought a lot, but again, it's got to be played very carefully. It's weak to Bug, Dark, Fire, Flying, Ghost, and Rock. And we all know how common Ghost moves are and Dark moves are. They're kind of just thrown onto every single Pokemon, Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse. So, and then people having Rock types and Flying types is quite common in the draft so far. So, I did forget to mention Garbodor there, but I don't expect it to be brought too often. I feel like he picked it up. It's a poison type. If it needs to be brought to cover certain things, like people doing a lot of toxic spiking, or if there's a fairy type that he needs to make sure he walls, I can see Garbodor being brought. But I mean, he's got such a good defensive team and team in general outside of Garbodor. I do feel like it falls victim to just it's not needed. So so let's break down Reggie's team individually. So I rated his offense an 8. This offense is boosted by Mega Aerodactyl, Como, Magmortar, Obstagoon, Donphan I'm going to mention because it hits really hard. It's a lead. It's generally run in an attacking way. And then you got Jirachi. You could mention Raichu, but I feel like that's a very utility Pokemon if he needs that Fake Out chip. And it does have Volt Switch, so that does give him some momentum. But generally, this offense is powered by Mega Aerodactyl, Como, and Obstagoon, and to some extent Jirachi. So, Tough Claws, Mega Aerodactyl with the coverage that he has, which I believe Ice Fang, Thunder Fang, Fire Fang, Aerial Ace, Stone Edge, or Rock Slide. I think he's got even more than that. Let me check. I know he has Earthquake as well. Aerodactyl, Smoggin. So he does have Hone Claws as well, which could help him boost that Stone Edge accuracy and just spam Stone Edge. Rock is fairly unresisted by a lot of Pokemon. Like I said, he has Earthquake, he has Dragon Claw. And remember, any move that makes contact, Earthquake being an example of something that doesn't make contact but is physical, Dragon Claw being something that does make contact, is boosted by Tough Claws. So he also has Aqua Tail, Iron Head, Iron Tail, Smackdown, which is great for things like Corviknight, because Corviknight is quite hard to deal with. But if he had Smackdown Earthquake, I feel like that is manageable for him, although Iron Head from Corviknight could be a problem. Like I said earlier, he's got all the Thunder Fangs, Thunder Fang, Ice Fang, and Fire Fang, so that is all Tough Claws boosted. Pretty hard Pokemon to stop from cleaning up at the end of the game. So next up, you got Como. I kind of mentioned Como before. He's got really high base stats. He can be run both ways. With access to the new moves, Body Press with Iron Defense, he's quite hard to stop with his defensive typing. He's weak to Dragon, Flying, Ice, Psychic, and Fairy, but resists Bug, Dark, Electric, Fire, Grass, Rock, and Water. Now those are some really good resistances and make it very easy for him to switch in. The ×4 weak to Fairy is not the greatest, but fairies really, there isn't a lot of fairies, so, and fairy moves are quite uncommon on other Pokemon, so access to Automatize, Boom Burst if he wants to run special attacking set, Belly Drum, Draco Meteor or Outrage. Does have Dragon Dance too. I mean, this Pokemon is all over the map. It can be built to whatever is needed, so I feel like this is one of the #1 Pokemon you got to prepare for when versing Reggie, is that Como. You got to think about, what does that Como need to be to beat you, and prepare for it in that way. So really, really phenomenal Pokemon. I think that is his probably best draft pick, is that Como. With the versatility that it has, I just think it's super hard to prepare for. The other offensive Pokemon you got are Donphan. I mean, I already mentioned him later. He's got Ice Shard, Knockoff, Earthquake, Stone Edge, Seed Bomb. Very annoying to deal with. And then you got Obstagoon, so a new Pokemon with a niche move called Obstruct. You make physical contact with the Obstruct. It lowers your defense by 2 and it protects him. So this is really good. He's got Knockoff, Stab. He does have Facade Stab, which is really strong with Guts. This Pokemon's a great wall breaker with a decent speed tier in 317, I believe. So if you don't have a resist, a Ghost to threaten those facades, or a Pokemon that is can resist Knockoff, I feel like this Pokemon's going to punch some big holes in teams. So last but not least, offensively, is Magmortar. I mean, he has decent coverage. It is a fire type, which is usually needed on every team to threaten those bulky grass types, or those bulky ice types. So like Tangrowth and Avalugg and stuff like that. Although I feel like Tangrowth probably would survive Magmortar's attacks if it wasn't Specs. So and then fire off an Earthquake itself. So Reggie's got to be careful about using Magmortar like that. But still, fire type is good to have with the introduction of heavy duty boots. That makes him getting in a lot easier. So like I said, his offense is an 8. I think it could be better in the regard that if you notice, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Pokemon that are offensive, and they're all physical. So having a really big physical wall that can resist a lot of these moves, and then another wall to resist that small niche of moves that the other one doesn't, I feel like Reggie's going to have a hard time breaking those teams if he doesn't pressure with Toxic and wall breaking with Obstagoon. So Magmortar and arguably Como and Jirachi being their special attackers. Generally, you're going to see Como in physical and Jirachi in physical as well. Although we did see Reggie bring a special attack in Jirachi, so he is aware that he doesn't have a lot of special attacking power. So that would be the only thing that I would say brings down probably a point, is he has so many physical attackers. He really lacks like that strong wall breaking special attacker. Magmortar can be ran like that, but the problem is he doesn't have the coverage for it. I believe I'm gonna double check that right now. I did look him up earlier. Yeah, so it's really Thunderbolt and Fire Blast. He has Earthquake, but not Earth Power, which is kind of sucky. He does have Low Sweep, but other than that, it's really just Fire Blast and Thunderbolt, and then Toxic or Will-O-Wisp if he's needing to run that. It does have Psychic, which is good. Does not have Dark Pulse. Does not have Shadow Ball. So yeah, to rely on Magmortar to be that special wall breaker is really limited in his move pool. So That would be the only thing that I would say could raise Reggie's score up from the 8. But 8 is by no means bad at all. That is very, very good. Those physical attacker Pokemon are very strong in their own respect, so do not overlook that. Next up is his defense. I rated a 9. As I mentioned earlier, Florges, Gastrodon, Donphan, Orbeetle, Como, Jirachi, Garbodor, Shaman. He's just got defensive Pokemon all over the map if he needs to run it. He's got so many that he can run to whatever the matchup is. He covers a lot of his problems. The only thing that I would see that he doesn't have is a strong poison resist. I can't see him bringing Garbodor too much, but for example, if he brings Florges and Gastrodon and Garbodor, I feel like that works well. He can keep Garbodor healthy and make sure that they don't threaten with toxic or poison jabs and stuff like that, right? But outside of that, I feel like it suffers a little bit to status in toxic or poison or steel moves. But Florges and Gastrodon are by no means easy to break. This defense is still a freaking 9. Orbeetle, as I was mentioning, it's got a great move pool. It's got U-turn. It's 90 base speed. Really hard Pokemon to break. Really make sure you guys know that Orbeetle's weaknesses and how to deal with it, because this Pokemon can sweep you defensively because of Iron Defense and Body Press. We seen earlier how much that Body Press did after just 1 Iron Defense, so really watch out for that Pokemon, you guys. Florges and Gastrodon are a problem, but Orbeetle is a problem defensively and offensively with Iron Defense, Body Press, and Recover. So and its speed tier being good enough to outspeed a lot of defensive threats and to hit KO them with boosted Body Press. So watch out for that Pokemon. So I want to just go back real quick here. He does have Shaman to rely on special attacking wise. It does have pretty decent coverage, so I do want to mention that. So I wanted to make sure I didn't miss that, because it does have Seed Flare and Earth Power, and I think a couple other moves I mentioned. So, but to get back to the defense, Donphan is a defensive Pokemon, but it's very offensive. To lead this Pokemon is really annoying. You got Ice Shard knockoff. I mentioned it several times now, so I won't keep reiterating myself, but to have Gastrodon, Florges, Como, Jirachi, Orbeetle, Donphan, Shaman, Garbodor, Reggie's got so many tools to use and provide for his matchup that it's going to be hard to break, and it is nothing short of a 9. So to make it a 10, I would say having a steel type would have been nice. He has Jirachi, but you know what he does it. I could put his defense at a 10 with the Jirachi and the Garbodor. I feel like he's really got that covered. Jesus. Yeah. Now taking a like 50th look at this here. To have Florges, Jirachi, Gastrodon. He's got the Earthquake covered. He's got the Fire Blast covered with Gastrodon. He's got the Steel weakness covered with Jirachi. The Poison weakness covered with Jirachi. And Florges can cover the Fire Blast and the Earthquake as well. So those 3 Pokemon are going to be insanely hard to break. Trying to threaten with Toxic, you get that Jirachi in for free. Jirachi, flinch hacks you to death, or U-turns out. Or Healing Wish into his Aerodactyl or Como if he needs to. Really, really great. I'm glad that I rated his defense a 9. This is definitely one of his top qualities on his team. He got access to all those defensive Pokemon. So next is speed. Mega Aerodactyl really carries this speed tier. It's over that 400 mark, which is naturally outspeeding medium speed Choice Scarfers and even fast Choice Scarfers to some extent. Fast, I would say, like around the 330 mark for Choice Scarfing. And then you got Raichu, which is 110 base speed. Obstagoon, max 317, which is not bad. Orbeetle, base 90, which is great still. And with access to Ice Shard from Donphan, it gives him priority if needed to make sure things don't get out of hand. Of course, if it's a fire type, obviously it's not going to work. But there are a lot of boosting dragons in the draft right now, so and flying types as well. So that Ice Shard is going to be a great priority for him. And then you got Jirachi last off with 328 max speed. Mediocre, but having so many medium speed tier Pokemon makes his team really fast. It makes people have to put choice scarfs on Pokemon to outspeed and KO them. So, and then you got Mega Aerodactyl sitting in the back that's faster than most choice scarfers. So, nothing less than an 8. Next up, you got hazards. He's got a plethora of hazards. He's got Stealth Rock, Spikes, and Toxic Spikes. Stealth Rocks in Donphan, Spikes and Toxic Spikes in Garbodor, Sticky Web in Orbeetle. He's got basically every type of hazard. Rocks in Jirachi, Rocks in Como, Rocks in Mega Aerodactyl as well. So he's got so many ways to set up Rocks and Spikes that it allows other Pokemon to run coverage moves. And that is such a useful tech in draft to free up other Pokemon's move pools and make you harder to deal with. It allows Donphan to threaten with 4 moves instead of 3 moves and a Stealth Rock. It allows Donphan to run an Assault Vest. If Jirachi runs Stealth Rocks, it allows Como to be a little bit more offensive. Orbeetle has Sticky Web, so it allows Obstagoon to wall break easier. His hazards is really, really great. His hazard removal is also pretty good. He's got Defog in Florges and Rapid Spin in Donphan. Now, I feel like his hazard removal could be a little bit better, but Florges is such a reliable defogger. The only problem that I could see with it is it runs into 4-move syndrome where it needs to run Defog, Heal Bell, Wish, and Protect. Other than that, like I said, it's a reliable defogger. It could be a little bit better, so he didn't have to rely so heavily on Florges for defogging and status healing. Maybe if he brought Florges and Shaman, he could have a Heal Bell on Shaman, or Aromatherapy, sorry, and then he could run defog on Florges. I think that would be probably the optimal play if he needed to defog, which in some cases, in some of the people's drafts, you won't even need to worry about it. So, but having that weakness to rocks with Orbeetle and Mega Aerodactyl, I think that defog should be very important to Reggie. So last but not least, momentum, I rated another 8. He's got U-turn in Orbeetle, he's got U-turn in Jirachi, he's got Volt Switch in Raichu, he's got Parting Shot in Obstagoon, so he's got a lot of ways to keep up his momentum. He's got Wish with Florges to get things in for free. He's got, all those tools at his hand, and then a really bulky team to go with it. So, I mean, you wish past the Como. Como's for sure going to live a move, depending if it's a fairy type or not. You get that in, well, okay, now you got to worry about Como boosting, either in defense, Iron Defense, or in Dragon Dance, or in Workup, or something like that. I mean, it's all really in Reggie's hands. Predicting Reggie is going to be a really big way to stop his momentum. Other than that, setting up rocks is probably the only other way that I can see to slow down Reggie's team. As his team really wouldn't appreciate rocks, as he'll be needing to wish past them to keep his defensive team from getting chipped too much and then wall breaking. So, but again, his team is no less than an 8 on every single score. He has a lot of Pokemon that he drafted. All of them are medium to great, so none of them are bad. That is the thing. The worst one on his team is Raichu, and again, Raichu is still not bad. It has Fake Out, it has Volt Switch. It's an electric type, so he does threaten bulky waters or flying types. Its speed tier is high, so I mean, just everywhere you look, Reggie's team is an 8 or higher. He's got a lot of versatility in his draft, a lot of coverage. It can be run special attack. that he can run physical attack, he can run a defensive type, he can run an attacking type. It's just his draft is everywhere it needs to be per the matchup. So very hard person to prepare for on every single Pokemon. So Como being the focal point of being hard to prepare for, because you don't know if it's going to be defensive or offensive, physical or special. So that doesn't go to say that he has no weaknesses. He does share a rock weakness with Orbeetle, Magmortar, and Aerodactyl. I know Aerodactyl's rock type, but I still believe that's weak to rocks. I'm going to double check on that. Okay, Aerodactyl. Are you weak to rocks? Yes. So he is weak to rocks. The electric weakness that Aerodactyl has is covered in Gastrodon and Donphan. The ice weakness that I believe Aerodactyl also has. Yeah, the ice weakness it has with it shares with Como and Shaman is covered in Gastrodon and Jirachi. But that would be the top shared weaknesses would be ice and rock. Ice being Donphan, Shaman, Como, and Mega Aerodactyl. That is a pretty big weakness to have. So if a Pokemon can cover ice and rock, or ice and fighting, ice and steel, it could prove a problem for Reggie, and you can start to predict accordingly to what he's trying to do. So overall, very minimal holes. His holes are covered. The ice type being the worst problem for his team. But again, you fire off an ice type, he gets Gastrodon in, Gastrodon Toxics, or he goes into, Florges, whatever the case. You understand what I'm saying. That hole is, while it's for Pokemon, and that is kind of a little bit of a problem, it's very, very easily covered up with Jirachi and Gastrodon and Florges with the special defense. So by no means is it a hole that's going to ruin Reggie's team. Overall, total, I rated Reggie's team a 41. He's absolutely above that really good level. He's going to be a problem in the draft. I expect him to be at the top, or at least in top 8. If he's any less, I feel like that comes down to team building. He really shouldn't be any less with the amount of Pokemon he drafted and how versatile his draft is. So again, guys, I'm sorry if I missed things. I try and write some notes and not exploit the person's team to 100%. I feel like that's not really that fair if I do that, and I haven't for other people. So I just wanted something to be represented visually for you guys' team, and to be fun and have a cool stat for each team. So I really do hope you guys enjoy these and keep coming around and leaving a comment or leaving a like or even subscribing in some cases. If you don't, that's totally okay though. I love that you guys would enjoy these and keep coming back. So thanks a lot, guys, and we'll see you on the next ones.